Hey everyone, how's it going? I hope you guys are keeping well and starting to normalize everything that's happening. I guess with me, I'm getting into a bit more of a routine, which is nice. I do miss you guys though. Yes, I do, believe it or not. But let's do this. So, what we're going to do today is this thing called common factoring. So, we have to go through factoring. It's quite important, especially with this course. And you're going to be, why are you doing that to me? You're going to be going through this in grade 11 as well. Okay. So it is really, really important to know. So with this stuff, please take your time with it. And yeah, so I'm going to be going through the examples in greater detail just because I want you guys to understand where everything is coming from. Okay, so what we're going to be doing is factoring, and what it is, it's the opposite of expanding. So the last note that you guys did, you were expanding, which means you were taking this, something like this with the brackets, and you were bringing it out of the brackets. So then we would be doing 5 times x, 5 times 7, you did, okay, well 5 times x is 5x, 5 times 7 is 35, so my answer is 5x plus 35. So if you look over here, that's exactly what I have, right? So this is expanding. So in other words, getting rid of the bracket of brackets and slash making it bigger. Okay, and what do I mean by making it bigger? I just mean like you're spreading it out a little bit. So then what we need to do is if we have something like this, 5x plus 35, what factoring is we want to put this back into a bracket. Yeah, so it's like we're going backwards. Into a bracket. Okay. So how on earth do we do that? Well, that's what I'm going to go through, okay? So I'm going to go through a couple of simple little things at first, and then we're going to put it all together. So just bear with me. So, factoring. If I were to factor 5x plus 35, I would get 5, then bracket x plus 7. It's like you're cleaning it up a little bit. Okay? I'm just trying to think of like an example. I don't know. I just kind of see it as like, say you have a drawer full of socks and underwear, and if you wear bras, I don't know, other things that you might keep in there, belts. You just like have them spread out everywhere, and they're all mixed up. Well, that would be kind of like this one, right? But then let's say you start sorting it. Say you buy little baskets or something, and you're sorting it, bit by bit. So you put your socks together, you put the underwear together, boxers, whatever you wear, the belts together, so on and so forth. So you're factoring, you're kind of cleaning it up and organizing it. I don't know. That's the, if you can think of a better one, post it. Okay, I'll give you a bonus mark. How about that? Okay, so I'm going to go through a few things first, and then we will get right into it. So, factor terms or numbers, depending on what we're dealing with, are multiplied together to give a new number. We've gone over this sometime a while ago, but we're just kind of reviewing it. So, the terms of 4. So, what are terms? They're numbers that are multiplied to give us 4. Now, the one thing I want to keep in mind is that we have to start thinking about negatives. I know. We have to start thinking about negatives, though. So if I were to ask you what are the terms of 4, or what are two numbers that multiply together to give us 4, you're going to say, well, 1 and 4. I'm not going to lie to you, I don't want to use that color. I want to use this color. 1 and 4. 2 and 2. Now, what are my other two? Don't say 3 and 1 because that's adding, right? We're multiplying here. So it's going to be -1 and -4. -2 and -2. So at some points, I'm going to say don't forget your negatives. Other points, you don't really need it. Okay, and I know that sounds frustrating, but bear with me. So the terms of 4 are 1, -1, 2, -2, 4, and -4. Okay? So, list the factors for 24. So let's go through it. So what I'm going to give you guys, those of you who have pretty strong multiplication skills, this stuff's just going to come faster to you. Doesn't mean like other people are not going to get it. It's just you're going to know it faster. One thing I'm going to provide you with is a factor sheet. So when I say what are the factors of, let's say, 24, well, if we zoom to 24, here's all my factors. So 1 times 24 is 24. 2 times 12 is 24. 3 times 8 is 24. 4 by 6, 24. So as you can see, the negatives aren't included in here. I just did the basic numbers, okay? I will be posting this as well, and it is going to be very, very important, so I recommend you keep it. And also when you guys get into grade 11, also keep it, because as I said, it's going to be regular school by then. I don't know who you'll have as a teacher. I'll tell you one thing, it won't be me. But, yeah. Okay, so we have those numbers. It's 1 by 24, 2 by 12, 3 by 8, 4 by 6. So, 124, 2 by 12, 3 by 8, and 4 by 6. So one thing I also like to do too, guys, is I like to go in order. So I like to start at 1, then go down to 2, go down to 3, go down to 4. 5 doesn't work. It doesn't go into 24 evenly. And then as you can see, I'm right back at 6, so that means I'm done. So that's why some of you might have done 3 and 8, and go 2 and 12. Yeah, okay, that's fine. But I'm just doing it in an order so I can keep track of all the numbers. And then again, for our negatives, we do -1, -24, -2, -12, -3, -8, -4, and -6. Okay, on to the next. Oops. Don't know what that was. Okay. 20. What are my factors of 20? If you can list these off right away, go for it. If you need to use the sheet, do whatever suits you best. Where's 20? It's going to be over here. We got 1 by 20, 2 by 10, 4 by 5. Three doesn't go into 20. 4, 5, and I've used all the ones that I can get. Again, we also have our negatives. And you'll see, oops, what I mean later, okay? It's going to come together, guys, I promise. Okay. X squared? Well, what are the factors of x squared? That's weird. So it's just x times x. That's all it is, right? So my factors are x and x. Last but not least, we have 6 and a squared. So we're going to list all the factors for 6. Again, if you're unsure, look, it's just these guys, so you're good. And then remember, it's a squared, so we're going to have a and a. -1, -6, -2, -3, negative a, negative a. So I'm not going to have you list all these factors, guys. I'm just trying to show you where these numbers are coming from. Okay. So now what we're going to be doing is the greatest common factor. So when it comes to common factoring, we want to take the number that is the biggest but the same in all the terms. Okay? So the highest number in variables that divide into all the terms. The greatest common factor may be a constant, so a number, a letter, or both. So a number, so the biggest, I can't, B-I-G-G-E-S-T, the biggest number, trying to move this. This one always gives me, it's always finicky with me. And or letter that goes into the term, okay? That goes into both terms, or both numbers. Okay. There we go. And then I can maybe move this. Nope. Sorry, guys. Why can't I move this? Like, why is it such a pain in the butt? Okay, I apologize why that's to the side. I don't know why it's being so finicky. Anyway, so list the greatest common factor for the two following terms. So what we're going to do is that we're going to have to list both those terms, but separately. So we're going to do 6, oops. We're going to do 6x and we're going to do 24. So one thing about this, guys, is because both of these numbers are positive, I'm only going to list the positive terms, okay? Only listing the positive terms. So, what are my terms for 6x? Well, again, here's my 6. I have 1, 6, 2, and 3. 1, 6, 2, 3, and I can't forget that x, right? Because the x is there. We can't just get rid of it. What are my terms for 24? 1, 24, 2, and 12, 3, and 8, 4, and 6. We already went through those. Okay, so now what we have to do is we have to find the number that's listed both under both categories. Okay, so we have to find the biggest number under here and the biggest one under here. So if you said 6, you're right. Remember, it's the biggest one. 3 is there, 3 is there, 2's there, 1's there. They're all the same, but we want the greatest, the biggest number. So what's the greatest common factor for 6x and 24? It is 6. Okay. Let's do it again. So we have 10x squared and 15x. Some of you guys might be able to know this right away, and that's great. Some of you might need to look at your factor sheet. Okay, so my first one's 10. 10's over here. So I got 1 by 10 and 2 by 5. And don't forget we have x squared. That means we have 2 x's. Okay. I could put this here. It really doesn't matter. But yeah, okay. 15x. What do we have for 15x? What are my terms? Okay, let's go to our factor sheet. 1 by 15, 3 by 5. And don't forget our x, right? We have our x's. 1, 2. So, what number and or letters is the greatest common between 10x squared and 15x? I'm really hoping you guys said 5, because the biggest number here is 5. It's on both sides, because this side doesn't have a 15, and this side doesn't have a 10, right? Also, there's an x. We have to do letters and numbers. So our answer for this is 5x. Okay, if you said that from the beginning, that's great. And you don't need to do all this stuff, okay? This is just to help you guys figure out what it is. Okay, one more. So take a look here, guys. See how we have this negative? So we're going to have to get these negative terms involved now. I don't know what those dots are. Okay, so let's do it. 6x cubed. Again, we have 1. Oops. We have 1 and 6. I'm not going to go to the fact sheet just because I've done it so many times, but you can if you want. We have -1, -6. We have 2 and 3, -2, -3. And then we have x, x, x. We have 3 x's. If you're not sure where these numbers are coming from, guys, you need to check that factor sheet. This is just basic multiplication. Okay, now we have -12x squared. So remember, what are two terms that multiply to give us -12? Okay, 1 times 6 gives us 6. -1 times -6 gives us +6. Remember that this is -12? So we have to have a positive and a negative. That's how we get multiplied to 12. So it's going to be 1 -12, or it could be -1 12. Okay, and if you need, check the factor sheet. 2 and 6. So it can be negative, actually I'll keep the pattern going. It could be 2, -6. It could be -2 and 6. Okay, I've done 1, I've gone 2, now let's do 3, 3, -4, or -3 and 4. Again, all of these multiply to -12. And then we have x squared, so don't forget x and x. Okay, now we have 18x. We have to do our negatives. And again, you'll see why later. Trust me. Just trust me on this. Okay, what are my factors for 18? Some of you might already know. Some of you might need to look at the sheet. As you can see, there's 3 here. Oops. Mix it up a little bit. Ooh, that's dark. Let's lighten it up a little bit. There we go. That's pretty. Okay. 1 by 18, 2 by 9, 3 by 6. So again, it's positive. So 1 times 18, -1, -18. 2 by 9, -2, -9. 3 by 6, -3, -6. And there's an x. Okay, so what is the biggest number that appears in all 3 of these terms? What is the biggest number? Hopefully right away you guys notice there's an x in all of them. Okay. We can't do 2 or 3 x's because the 18x only has 1 x, right? So for my final answer, let's box it up. We know there's going to be an x. Okay, what's my biggest number that appears in all of them? Well, this one has, the biggest number here is going to be a 6, right, for 6x cubed. So because that's the biggest number, we'll have to see if it's everywhere else. So there's a 6, there's a 6, and there's a 6. Why didn't I use negative 6? Because negative 6 is smaller than positive 6. So again, we have to find out what is in common with all three terms. There's a term, there's a term, there's a term. What is in common? I don't know why that's doing that. With all three of those terms. Okay, guys? There's a couple of your turns. So if you want to try them and you want me to see if you got them right, please give it a shot, okay? I am here for you if you want me to see. But if you're feeling pretty confident, that's great. The one thing I do want to point out, actually, before we move on, is if you were to say, for this example here, that the answer was 3, well, you'd be wrong. Because the question is asking the greatest common factor. What is the biggest number in all of them? Yeah, 3 appears every time, but it's not the biggest. So you have to be careful with that, okay? Okay, so I'll give you guys that. So, common factoring. So now this is pretty much everything that we're doing. We're just applying it to numbers that are additional and subtraction. So list the greatest common factor for the, steps. Determine the greatest common factor between all terms. If you have the same variable, take the smallest exponent of the same variable. Okay, so I'm going to just do this step by step. Determine the greatest common factor between all the terms. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do with blue. So I have 10x, and I have negative 15. Okay, that negative sticks with the number in front. So, because we're dealing with the negative, we have to include all the terms, positive and negative. So, 10x, I have 1 and 10. Check your factor sheet if you need to. Negative 1, negative 10. I've got 2 and 5, negative 2, negative 5, and then I have x. That should be it. Yeah, now I wanted to be sure. Okay, now we look at negative 15. What are two numbers that multiply to negative 15? We've got 1, negative 15. We've got negative 1 and 15, positive 15. Remember, 1 times negative 15 is negative 15, which is that number there. Negative 1 times positive 15 is negative 15, which is that number there, and I'm going to do that all through, okay? 2 doesn't work. 3 and negative 5, and then negative 3 and 5. 3 times negative 5 is negative 15. Negative 3 times positive 5 is negative 15. Okay, so as you can see. So, now we're going to zoom out. Which of these is the biggest? Which number appears that's the biggest? Okay, there's ones. And is there a number bigger than 1? Yep. 2s, there's only 2 on the one side, and then there's 5s, right? So 5 is your biggest number, your greatest number, common factor, thank you, on both sides. So We figured that out. Write the greatest common factor in front of an open bracket. Oh, okay. So our greatest common factor was 5. So I'm going to do 5, and then I'm going to do it in front of an open bracket. Divide out the greatest common factor from each term and put the quotient inside the bracket. Okay, so we are going to eventually close that bracket. So now what that means is we're essentially doing 10x divided by 5. Okay? This 5 is from here. We're taking out what's common. So there's a couple different ways that you can go about this, but if you take a look, we know 2 times 5 is 10. So 10 divided by 5 is 2. We can't forget that x. This is why we were doing this. When did we do this? I'm going to look back. We did this. Lesson 1, power rules. I think that's where it was. Yeah, we've practiced this, so this is where it's coming into play. Okay, and then now we got to do negative 15 divided by 5. Again, we're doing it by 5 because it is the greatest common factor. What's negative 15 divided by 5? Well, take a look. We've already done it. The answer is here. We've taken the 5. We've got the negative 15, so my answer is going to be minus 3. That's my answer. So that's common factoring. You're taking out what's common in both those terms. The last step says check your answer by expanding. So let's do it. So what does that mean? We have 5, 2x minus 3. What's 5 times 2x? 10x. What's 5 times negative 3? Negative 15. Look at that. It's our original question. That's the one thing that is really great with this stuff, is that you can actually check your answer, which people do forget, but it's, sorry. Yeah, people do forget that you can check your answer, but hey. Okay, let's do it again. So what do I have? Then we have practice questions coming up. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. Okay, whatever. So, let's do it again. So, I'll use the colors here again, guys, and then I probably won't use as many colors, just whatever. So, determine the greatest common factor between both terms. Some of you guys might be able to know this right away. Okay? So if you're taking a look here, and instead of writing them out, we're going to what are we comparing in this question? I'm going to use a different color. We're comparing 20 and 12. What number shows up in both of them? That's the biggest. 20 and 12. 20 is only, so what I'm going to do is I'll break it down. 20 is only in this one, so it can't be that. 12 is only in this one, so it can't be that number. 10's only there, so it can't be that number. 6 is the next biggest number. It's only there. It can't be that one. 5 only appears in 20, so it can't be in that one, so it has to be 4. Okay? I hope that made sense. So, for 1, step 1, it's 4. Okay. There's an x in both of them, so it's actually going to be 4x. So So we got from factor table. Okay. So it's 4x. I know we didn't go through technically the negatives, but remember the negatives are bigger than the positive, or smaller than the positives, but the negatives will come into play. Okay. I'm just trying to make this as basic as possible. Okay, so we know 4x is the greatest common factor between 20 and 12. Write out the GCF in front of the bracket. Okay, it's in front of an open bracket. And I just closed it off too. Next step, divide out the greatest common factor between all the terms. So again, we've done this type of math before. We've just done it in the past. So I have 20x divided by 4x. So again, we're going to do it number by number, letter by letter. What's 20 divided by 4? If you're unsure, use your calculator. If you are sure and you know it's 5, you're right. And then x crosses out with x, so it's just 5. Negative 12x squared divided by 4. Well, what's negative 12 divided by 4? Remember, numbers with numbers, letters with letters. Negative 12 divided by 4 is negative 3. If you're unsure, check your calculator. X squared divided by no letter stays the same, so it's x squared. Oh, sorry. There's an x there. I apologize. X squared divided by x. Remember, we're having two powers being subtracted by each other. So that looks like x times x divided by x. Well, that x and that x cross out, so it's just going to be x to the power of 1. Remember, 2 minus 1 is 1. Okay? So those are my two terms that I'm going to be moving into my bracket. So essentially I'm moving this up here and this up into here. Okay, I'm not going to keep it like that just so you can, actually no, let's just do it. There we go. And that's that term factored. It's cleaned up a little bit. Now we check it. Oh no. Okay, we multiply it through. 4x times 5 is 20x. 4 times negative 3 is negative 12. X times x. Remember, we're multiplying the x's, so we have to add the exponents. X squared. Same thing. Okay. So, for this one here, I'm just going to use one color, guys. Okay, I don't want to go back and forth anymore. Let's pick a nice color while we're at it. So we have x cubed plus 12x. So we got to remember there's a 1 here. So for the greatest common factor for 1 and 12, it has to be 1. Because the only numbers that multiply with 1 is 1. Right? Don't believe me? Check this out. 1 by 1. So that means x, 1 and 1, greatest common factor. Okay? But as you can see here, this has 3 x's. This one has 2. So the greatest common factor is x squared, not 2x, x squared. Okay? So now we need to divide it through. So remember, it's x cubed divided by x squared. Okay, now that you guys have done the power rules, it's just 3 minus 2 because of these. So that's going to just leave me with x. Now we got to do 12x squared divided by x squared. 12 divided by 1 is 12. X squared divided by x squared, they just cancel each other out. So it's just 12 plus x. X plus 12, sorry. Let's see if it works. Go back and check it. X squared times x. Okay, the powers are the bases are the same, so we add the exponents. It's going to be x cubed. 12 squared times, oh my gosh, I can't speak, x squared times 12. What is that?